We have been spending some time converting between forms of a quadratic function. Today what we're going to do is learn a strategy called factoring a quadratic, and we're going to go from a general form of a quadratic to a factored form. Today we're going to use a strategy called factoring a quadratic by grouping. All right, just so you know what a factor is, remember if I have a number like 6, 6 has 4 factors. 2 and 3 and 1 and 6. Factors are the numbers that multiply together to get 6, which is like our product. So if I take a look at my product here, 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, my goal is to find two quantities that multiply together to get this product. Just remember our two quantities here, like when we were doing our multiplication, are going to be binomials. Normally we multiply 4 times, so we would have an ax squared term, we would have 2x terms, and then a c term. Remember, our 2x terms are usually what help us combine together to get this middle term. Today we're going to use our diamond problems that we've been practicing to be able to get our answer. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to be doing is taking our ax squared term and our c term, and we're going to be finding the product of them. When I multiply those together, 2x squared times 3 is going to be 6x squared. Now our goal is to find what two x values right here combine together to get this middle one. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this bx term right down here, negative 5x, and we're going to find two numbers that add together to get negative 5x and multiply together to get 6x squared. Now in my mind, I know that the only way you can get a positive product is if you multiply two positive numbers together or two negative numbers together. Because the sum has to be negative, I know that the product has to have been reached by having two negative factors. So when I go over here to my factors of 6, the only ones that would work, because if I make those both negative, I would get negative 7. It has to be negative 2 and negative 3. So we're going to use these today. Now, because these are x terms, I'm going to write negative 2x and negative 3x. Just remember, it doesn't matter where you place those inside the diamond problem. Okay? So when I factor by grouping, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my 2x squared out, and I'm going to bring down my c term of 3, just like my ax squared and my c here. So I'm going to underline those so you know where those came from. And then I'm going to take those two terms that combine together to get negative 5x, and I'm going to place them right inside here. Pretty much I'm going to write the step that we build when we multiply our binomials, and then we finally combine to get here. So I'm going to write them in purple, negative 2x, and then negative 3x. I'm going to go ahead and put a plus right in front of that 3 though, so we know it's still positive. Now, when I factor by grouping, what I'm going to do is I'm going to group the first two terms together and the second two terms together. I'm going to go ahead and do my grouping with this pink parenthesis. Okay? Now, when I do that today, I'm going to go ahead now and pull out what we call the greatest common factor. So the biggest number that they both have in common that happens to be a factor of the numbers or variables. So if I look at this one, I see a 2 and I see a 2 here. So I know my greatest common factor is going to be 2. But I don't know if you noticed or not, but x squared means the same as x times x, and then there's a single x here because if I look at that, a factor, remember, is something that you multiply together to get another number. And remember, when I have x squared, that does mean multiplication, x times x. So because both of these terms have an x in common, I'm going to put an x out, okay? So because that's my greatest common factor, I'm going to write now what's left. So if I do 2x squared and I take 2x away from it, I'm going to have 1x left. Remember, my final result, if I multiply 2x times x, I should get 2x squared. It's a good way to check. And then if I take 2x away from this, it's kind of like I'm dividing both of these by that outside greatest common factor. I would have negative 1 left over. So again, 2x times negative 1 is 2x. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and put my plus here, and let's try our greatest common factor for this parenthesis. So I see 3 and 3, so I'm going to pull that out immediately. Anytime that you have in this particular one, see this negative 3 right here, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a negative 3, and then what I'm going to do is divide or see what's left over after I divide both of these terms by negative 3. So if I do negative 3x divided by negative 3, I would get 1x. And then 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. Now, as I take a step back and look, I see that both of these parentheses, x minus 1, are the same. So I know that's going to be one of my factors. And then my other factor is going to be what's left over here, what my greatest common factors were. So that's going to be 2x minus 3. Now, if I was going to convert this quadratic, let's say this was equal to y, then I could put a y next to it. If we were going to be graphing, if I was just going to factor this quadratic to find the two quantities to multiply together, it's okay to leave it without the y. But I'm going to go ahead and re-multiply to verify that this is what I would get if I actually multiplied these two factors. So x times 2x is 2x squared. X times negative 3x, I'm going to put that here, is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. And then negative 1 times negative 3, sure enough, is 3. These two do add together to get negative 5x. So this is, again, factoring a quadratic by grouping.